You know, in Texas, they say keep Austin weird. But when Bellator comes to town, it's Houston that gets a little strange. Welcome, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas, and this is the Bellator 149 pre-fight show. Joining me for the first time, and I hate to use this language, but getting his virgin experience in the Bellator world, the one and only Shaun Al-Shatti. Shaun, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, my man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it is. So let's talk about what's happened with this card. Generally, as you have observed it, you've been in town for a couple of days now. You usually go to a lot of UFC events. This is very, very different. From your vantage point, I'm kind of numb to the Bellator circus, as it were, but you're a neophyte. Tell me, what has been your general vibe since coming to town here?
It's a carnival. I mean, if we're just gonna be frank with each other, it's a carnival.
Jose, real quickly, you were saying before we recorded this, maybe a couple of days ago, that it's kind of hard to talk about this event without being insulting, which in and of itself is insulting, but it's really true. It actually, you have to be careful how you describe things.
Yeah, and that's not even a specifically Bellator thing, because normally Bellator events, you know, there's a lot of talent on it. This one, look at the top two fights, there's not a lot there other than the spectacle. It's all about the spectacle, and I mean, we saw that on Wednesday at the press conference immediately before a question was asked. Things just got crazy all of a sudden. That's kind of been the theme throughout the week, and I feel like if you're gonna just approach it that way, if you're gonna build a card in this direction, you kind of have to embrace that, don't you? Like, you can't really act like this is a sporting event. You have to kind of act like this is a circus.
So are you on board with the Coker vision? Now that you're here and you're seeing all the different pieces he's putting together, is it starting to make sense what he's doing? Not saying you agree with it necessarily, but you can kind of get a sense of why he does the things that he does.
I mean, it absolutely makes sense, because I mean, we were there. It's fun. If you just have to let it all flow over you. You can't act.
You gotta bathe in it.
You can't fight it. You just have to accept it for what it is, and then go forward with it. And it works. I mean, let's be honest. This is going to draw probably massive ratings. The Coker formula works. It's more of a loose feeling here. It's not as rigid and manicured as the normal fights that I'm used to going to. This is my first Bellator tentpole, and it's fun. It brings back, you know, the classic circus fights that I mean, it's a guilty pleasure type of thing.
If you read online, and I'm not here to say that any of their criticisms of the fights are invalid, but most, I mean, hardcore fans have this really negative view of it in the sense that they find it, and I asked Scott Coker about this, to be destructive, to be harmful to the sport. But when you come here and you talk to Bellator staff and you see Spike TV officials, their vibe is completely the opposite. It's very breezy, easy come, easy go. Did you pick up on that as well?
I did, and I think, again, that just comes with the territory, right? Like, if you're going to do this, you can't put on a facade like this is a true, you know, huge number one versus number two in the world. Right. You have to just embrace it for what it is. It's a dog
fest.
It really is. It's two guys whose combined age is 101. To both UFC Hall of Famers, both legends, and not insulting them at all. But they're middle-aged men, and they're going to fight, and it's going to be something. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see it. And then it's two guys who have no real qualifications in fight. I mean, I guess Kimbo has a little bit, but... And it was just this, I don't know, again, it's very strange.
It's hard to describe because it's nothing like what we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that main event. Royce Gracie taking on Ken Shamrock for the third time. I'm not so interested in predictions necessarily, mostly because if you look at the odds makers, they're even across the board. They don't really know what to make of this either. Yeah. But I guess you had brought up something kind of interesting in the days leading up to today, which was maybe there's room for a seniors division. You do see that in amateur wrestling to an extent. You certainly see that in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. There's not strikes involved in that, so it's a bit different. But I guess what I'm wondering is, seeing this all put together, do you think it can work?
I think it could work under the right circumstances, and I think this is a good example of the right circumstances. Both these guys, you kind of know going into it that neither of these are heavy punchers. I mean, nobody's going to get too badly hurt, hopefully. But Ken Shamrock brought an interesting point to me up on Wednesday. I asked him, you know, do you feel like you're almost trailblazing this in a way, and have other legends kind of come to you and said, you know, I'm jealous, I want to do what you're doing? And he said, absolutely. As he started doing this, initially he was hearing criticism, but the more he does it, and the more, you know, 2.1 million people tune in to watch this, he's hearing from guys who are his age, of that era, saying, you know, that sounds really fun. I'd really just like to do that because I am in shape. I have kept myself in shape. I own a gym or whatever, and I want to compete. The thing that I can appreciate about the way Ken's approaching this is that he's not putting on any air. He's not putting on airs that he's fighting, that he has the ability, I guess, to fight these young studs coming up.
He says so explicitly.
Yeah, exactly, and he knows exactly where he is. He says, but the idea that these old guys can still fight each other, And they have spent a career building up this fan base that still is with them, and they can still parlay that into something. And especially a lot of the guys who kind of missed the days where the money wasn't in the, or they kind of missed the days where the money was in the sport. They left before the money came to the sport. Right. They can come back and get a few last paydays to really wrap up everything that they feel they've done in their life. I can appreciate that for what it is.
These guys had to get licenses as professional fighters to compete here, but it's Texas. It's not the most serious regulations they have to clear. I was actually comparing Texas with New Jersey. New Jersey's regimen is substantively much more difficult. So I guess I'll ask you, because I don't know the question to this. Actually, I don't know the answer to this question. I have my own feelings about it, but I'm also uncertain. Is what they're doing in the main event safe?
I think so in this regard, and I think that goes back to what we were saying, where it has to be very specialized. Ken and Royce, neither of them are heavy punchers. Hopefully nobody's going to get too much brain damage in this type of situation. You don't want to throw Royce in there with, a guy who's 20 years old, 25 years old. In this case, I think it works.
Okay. All right. Co-main event. Frankly, the star of the show here all week.
They really have stolen the show.
Tell me about it. What's been your impression? Because everyone kind of feels like, well, the legends, they must be carrying the show. They're the headlining act. Not really. This has been the Kimbo Slice Dada 5000 show, I feel like, to a huge degree.
It's the Baby Nuts show, man. It's the Baby Nuts show.
Hashtag Baby Nuts.
Hashtag Baby Nuts. Yeah, that really set the tone for the week, I think. That just initial first 5 minutes in that press conference, because it was just something else. It was something that nobody expected.
And I have to say, this is another thing. Everyone's like, this has been pro wrestling. There's no doubt about it that Dada 5000, we'll talk about him more in just a second, has been a pro wrestling type of personality. But that that press conference was so much a boxing press conference.
That is exactly what it was.
Where you had all these different colorful personalities all getting a chance to speak. I think we're used to a little bit more corporate, rigid environment. And I'm not saying one's worse than the other, but it's nice to have alternatives.
You got baby nuts, Dada. You got baby nuts. I bet you my nuts bigger than yours. Come on.
In a weird way, this is what I feel like. In a super weird way, did you get the sense that there was a little bit of authenticity of hatred between Slice and DeFear Harris or Dada 5000? Like when they were talking to each other, there were cops on the side of the stage. I didn't feel like they were props. I really didn't. I kind of felt like, I'm sure that we're being sold a bill of goods. I'm no fool. It felt a little real at some point, and maybe that's a testament to the acting, quote unquote, they were doing, but I don't know. At some point, this thing takes on a life of its own, and the guys get invested in it, and it carries on its way and becomes something kind of interesting to follow.
I think you're right. I'm a guy who came into this week as a skeptic. I didn't know much about Dada before this fight was introduced. I watched Dogfight, but even then I came into this week kind of wondering how much of this was manufactured, how much of this was real. But I'm on board with what you're saying at this point. I feel like this is a genuine beef. Whether that matters or whether
who cares?
It doesn't matter. Like let's just enjoy it for what it is at this point, right?
And what do you think the source is of why this is such a bigger event than the main event itself? It seems to me the answer is, one, there's a rivalry. There's a rivalry in the main event, but like a very heated one. And the second part is Kimbo and Dada 5000 are just way more dynamic personalities. Everyone knows the Kimbo Slice story. And look, Dada 5000, I'm sick of saying his name. I can't believe as an adult male I have to say this. But the truth of the matter is, he might be a 0 on the heavy bags. He is a 10 on the mic.
Yeah.
You can see exactly why Scott Coker booked him.
He's a natural promoter. He's a born promoter. He's a carnival barker. I was talking to Billy Corbin, who directed Dogfight. He's been following this guy for 8 years, and he was even saying at some point you just get exhausted listening to the man, because there's just soundbite after soundbite after soundbite, and we can say what we can say about his fighting ability, but the man can talk. You have to give him that.
So I said I wasn't going to do predictions. Now I am. There's no way to answer this incorrectly, really, because no one has any idea what's going to happen. Main and co-main event, who do you like?
Wouldn't it just be hilarious if Ken just laid on Royce for 15 minutes, did literally nothing, just like the second fight, and actually won the decision this time?
Hilarious is not the word that comes to mind for me. So you like Ken?
Man, yeah, sure. I'll go with Ken just because he's actually fought within the past 7 years. So let's go with that.
And the co-main event, who do you like?
I feel like you have to, the pick is kind of, you have to pick Kimbo, because anybody who's seen the footage of Dada, he doesn't look that good. You see the mitt work, I mean, it's a little rough. Kimbo, at least, he's a known quantity, you know what you're getting with him. So I'll go with Kimbo by knockout on that.
So I agree with your picks. I like Ken in the main event, only because Royce just seemed to be looking, I don't know what the word is, frail a little bit almost. And then in the co-main event, here's what I'll say. I like Kimbo to win. I can't believe I'm breaking down this fight, but here we go. Here's the only way I think you can break down this fight. I think the first 30 seconds, anything can happen. After that, I like Kimbo's chances. I think because Defeer's big. I'm sure he hits hard.
Yeah.
And Kimbo's chin's not the best. Even when against a brawler, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. I just broke down the most bizarre fight of all time. Real quickly, the down ballot fights. So there's 3 more of them.
Yeah.
It's got some interesting prospects, some notable names. Melvin Gillard is on this card,
Yeah.
a name very familiar to UFC fans. It's a little underwhelming, I think. I think there's a lot of fans saying, if you're going to do the freak show stuff, why didn't you put some bigger prospects? Why isn't Darian Caldwell, for example, on this? Where's Michael Chandler? Are you disappointed in the rest of that card?
You know what, a little bit. And I think that's one of the more surprising aspects of this card to me, because that is kind of the method, right? You're going to put these freak show fights on the top, and then 2 million people or whatever is going to tune in, then they're going to just be exposed to your up-and-coming guys, and that's kind of been the formula that we've seen actually work and succeed for Scott Coker so far. You look at that up and down this card, though, I mean, like you said, there's Melvin Gillard, there's Justin Wren on the undercard, but there's not a lot of substance to it. There's not a lot of big names and guys that they're trying to prop up. So it is a little disappointing in that regard.
I'm a little bit curious about Emmanuel Sanchez beating Justin Lawrence in his last fight, a guy at a Duke Rufus's gym. I think he looks pretty good. Melvin Gillard missed weight.
Again.
Yeah, again. I mean, I think he's going to make it. I don't know, but he didn't look awesome on the scales anyway. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. But we'll see what happens with the top of the card. We'll see what happens with the bottom of the card. No one really knows. We are in uncharted territory here, just a little bit, at least outside of Japan. So for MMA Fighting, for Shaun Al-Shatti, I'm Luke Thomas. Thank you so much for watching. Stick around. We'll have coverage for you on Fight Night. Ladies and gentlemen, here goes nothing.